Welcome everyone, I am your host Lex Black. You're tuning into my show, Midnight Music and Culture. This is episode 4. Man, we gotta stop rewriting history. We gotta stop. We gotta stop. But check this out, man. I have a series called While the Party Dies. It's my examination of the fallout after the monumental beef that took place between Kendrick and Drake in 2024. So I suggest you guys check it out. It's a 3-part series. 2 of the parts are already up on my channel, with part 3 coming soon. It is something of a deep dive, and I'm really excited to get the last part out there, so make sure you check it out. But we talking today about J. Cole and his media run, and Jay-Z and his media splash. Both dropped around the same time, and both require an honest examination. So this episode is about one thing: the revisionist attempt that's currently in motion and why it won't work, man. So here we are, man. Just to remind you guys, 2013, Kendrick was named the hottest MC in the game by multiple outlets. That same day on March 7th, when he was dubbed the #1 MC, Drake released 5 a.m. in Toronto, sent some veiled shots. June 22nd, 2013, J. Cole and Drake dropped Jodeci Freestyle with more, if you can call them direct subliminals. They were there, and they were specifically speaking about Kendrick being dubbed #1. August 2013, Kendrick drops the control verse on Big Sean's track. Names all these MCs. It's a competitive declaration. We all know what that was. Most people took it as a sign of respect. They took it in stride. Drake goes on a media tour, bitching, moaning, and complaining about it, calling it things like an ambitious thought, and he lost respect for Kendrick because he thought he was, trying to keep it to the sentiment of the verse, and he should have kept it. If it's fuck everybody, then it should be that way in real life. And he lost respect for him because Kendrick was cordial with him 5 days after when he saw him at the VMAs. The point here: the sensitivity that Drake showed in 2013 to a competitive sport in hip-hop is the exact same sensitivity that ended in a federal lawsuit in 2024. Okay? Same man, same fragile ego, 11 years apart. Fast forward to present day. Subliminals flying back and forth throughout the years, and then we get first-person shooter in October of 2023. And the story surrounding how that came to be is changing every day. Okay? In March, I don't know what it is about March. March just seems to be the launching point for beef with these guys. Kendrick comes out in response on Like That with the infamous line, the big 3 is just big me. We can't forget here at all, okay? We cannot forget that in all of these instances, the reason why I brought these things up is because Kendrick rapped in response to the slights. It isn't the other way around where Kendrick is just coming out here and trying to offend and cross-step and get at people outright. He isn't the bully in these situations, and he isn't the instigator. He's the one who finishes the fights. Okay? This is how it works. We know how the battle went. I just wanted to lay that down. We all know how everything went. I just wanted to lay that down before we get into the meat and potatoes of this, okay? So J. Cole on Cameron's podcast said he hated watching the internet, turn on Drake. And he calls it a whole campaign against Drake, inciting some sort of conspiracy. He expresses disgust at the quote-unquote pylon against Drake, and he calls it, like I said, a campaign. He says both sides went too far. He conspicuously leaves out any mention of what Drake did to create the conditions for everything that followed. That's what Cole's focus was. It was a both sides thing, right? The problem with the both sides framing is that it erases Drake's agency, okay, and his responsibility for his own conduct, which he is a grown-ass man He was the one who threw his hat in the ring. He was the one who antagonized. He just got his ass whooped thoroughly. Okay? It's the same listen, he does this all the time. He with all these provocations and then mentioning family members. He did the same thing with Pusha T. We saw how that came out. We saw the result of that. He brought families in. Okay? In this battle, the same thing. Kendrick warned him multiple times. Do not bring up families in this. Let's keep it a friendly fade. Drake said, nah, fuck that. I'm bringing in your wife. I'm bringing in your kids. Are your kids even yours? I don't know. Kendrick says, okay, I knew you were going to do that. And he had multiple, shots in the clip ready to go. The point is, though, it's on record. Drake made this personal after being asked not to make it personal. Okay? Nobody turned on Drake. Drake handed the internet everything it needed, and then he wants to act shocked when people use it as logic against him with the actions that he took. You cannot act shocked. It's the perpetual victimhood. That's soft. Okay? And then we have Gilly the Kid coming out here saying black people brought Drake down. They'll build you up and then they'll break you down. That it was black people's fault for wanting to see him fail. He's saying that on Barstool Sports. Imagine the interesting propaganda that's been coming out of his mouth on that platform for as long as it has. There are socio-political ties to this. There are threads that you can pull that lead to some other areas here, guys. That's not just revisionist. Okay, that's literally insulting. He's trying to deny what we saw with our own eyes and heard with our own 2 ears, okay? Drake's own conduct brought Drake down. Then we have Cole's birthday blizzard bars from January 2026. Coding shots at Drake through Lucian references and bot streamlines, right? Specifically on the Golden Goose freestyle where he rapped, and I'm quoting directly here. A lot of rappers make dough, then prone to lose it. They be prone to lose it. For crumbs, dumb niggas sold their soul to Lucian. Universal distribution, but I own the music. End quote. And then another one, quote, if the streams say you winning while your tours is losing, when the math ain't mathin', of course you're juicing. That mean the bots is boosting. End quote. Who was that directed at? Who's that directed at? The same one that you saying, oh, I hated that for Drake. I hated seeing that for Drake. But you taking shots at him? And then months later going on Cameron's podcast and defending him from the dog pile, quote unquote. That is an elite, ultimate fence sitter operating in real time. You cannot have it both ways. Okay? Now the broader pattern here is the Camerons, the Gillies, and the J. Coles of the world and of the like sort and ilk are doing the same thing that the guys that I spoke of in my series While the Party Dies were doing. They're showing this strange deference to Drake. They're caping for a guy who's playing victim when he's the furthest thing from it. When a lot of his operation is predicated on victimizing people. Okay? Not just artists who are trying to come up on the come up and make their way, but young impressionable women, young impressionable girls. Let's not pretend, okay? Let's cut the revisionist bullshit out. They're softening accountability for someone who's earned every bit of that ass whooping that he got that came his way. Drake cannot throw rocks and hide his hands and expect sympathy when someone throws a bigger rock back at your fucking head top. Okay? We really gotta be honest here. We have to be. Alright? Speaking of revisionist, here's where the revisionist narrative has legs even though it really shouldn't. Because it wasn't just organic human beings running this. And these guys have been trying to do this with this setup for quite a bit of time, okay? Alright, let's touch on it. The federal RICO lawsuit filed December 31st, 2025 alleges that Drake used stake money funneled through the platform's tipping system to pay bot farms that inflated his streaming numbers. Y'all remember that story? The same bot infrastructure allegedly used to fake streams was almost certainly being used to flood narratives online, to amplify certain takes, to make manufactured consensus look organic. Like, you know, it couldn't be anything further from organic. It was more synthetic. It wasn't organic like Kendrick Lamar is not like us taking off organically like it did. Okay? A lot of Drake's success, he's the numbers guy, he's the stream guy. We come to find out that he's working in close cahoots with a PR firm that he's been connected with since 2013, whose documented specialty is deploying bots and coordinated campaigns to bury opponents and manufacture credible-looking narratives. That honestly deserves its own full episode. But just know that it exists and know that it was running during all of this, during all of his endeavors. Melissa Nathan, look up the name, okay? You think that Drake isn't going to be using those things for all of his endeavors? For his music, especially? Come on, y'all. Come on. The revisionist operation is a machine that's been running in the backdrop for Drake this entire time. The irony, and it is quite the irony. Drake sued UMG, accusing Kendrick's team of using bots. He is now, funny enough, federally accused of doing exactly that himself. Those actions remind me of somebody. When the accusation is a confession, remind you of anybody. I'll give you a second with that. And while you're thinking on that, here's another thing that we're going to talk about, because these things just happen so quickly, okay? Jay-Z had an interview with GQ. There's a lot of connective tissue here that I wanted to kind of touch on. And his interview was with that gentleman, Fraser Tharp, who was an excellent interviewer, by the way. Now, I had a few reactions. My honest reaction has evolved over the past few days. On day one, when I first checked out the stuff, I was slightly dismayed. On day two, I rewatched the full thing again, not just the clips. And on day three is where I landed with a fully well thought out and well-rounded understanding, at least from my point of view, my purview of what Jay actually said. And what I perceived, what I saw was that Jay was actually saying, and he said this almost verbatim, that Kendrick had a monster year, okay? Choosing him for the Super Bowl was the right choice. He thought even more highly of him after the performance, higher than he already thought of him from before. And he called his performance bold and visionary, and he said he was the sound of the culture. All of that is in this interview. Most people gloss over that. And I think it's important that we highlight that, because while his take was less than favorable, he gave Kendrick his props on that big of a platform, okay? Now, what Jay was really getting at when it comes to the battles was the infrastructure around the battles. Bots, stan armies, manufactured outrage, the toxicity that social media pours gasoline on. Remember what I was just talking about with Drake and the PR firm and using the bots to paint narratives. Okay, all of this has connective tissue. All of it. Okay? He isn't wrong about any of that. I agree with him on that, right? Let me bring in like some very unfortunate things, like the shooting at Rihanna's home in March of 2026, where a woman drove to her home and shot up her house with a semi-automatic weapon. ASAP, Rocky was there, and they were there with their kids and their family. Nobody was hurt, thank God. That is the extreme end of the parasocial stand cultural road, okay? That's the extreme result. This is what Jay was referring to when he was talking about, I respect the art of the spar in music, but maybe we should move past battles because of this particular toxic environment that comes from it. Okay? But here's the thing. Stan culture has been a problem long before the term stan became a thing. Shout out to Eminem. So one of my honest critiques of what Jay said in all of this is he said families get brought in and then it went too far. But he said so without specifically naming who crossed that line. He kind of made it a blanket statement over both men, meaning Kendrick and Drake. When, again, I have to reiterate, Kendrick warned Drake, do not take it there, or I will have to take it further. Okay? So when Jay made that blanket statement, giving it the both sidesism the same way Cole did, okay, that bothered me slightly. Because there was one person who crossed that line after being explicitly warned not to. One person, and we all know who that was. Drake Lawbury Graham. And yes, I said it that way for a reason. The irony is this is the same Hove who left the condom in Nas's baby mother's back seat. Or Nas's back seat with his baby mother, whatever, on the Super Ugly freestyle after he got ethered. Ironically enough. Jay went there himself some 20-some years ago, and it was so egregious at that time that his mother called and told him to stop. That's it. So he knows from personal experience where that road leads. So I understand him when it comes to thinking about it in the way that he is, and you take into account his age and his experience and the growth he's shown in his perspective on this. And it's real and it's worth acknowledging. I understand that, but I wish he would just be more specific. So Jay's take is more mature and more honest than Cole's, honestly, because Cole's is, veiled in shadows and sleight of hand and duplicitous in nature, even though I don't think he fully means to be duplicitous, but that's another aside. Jay praised Kendrick clearly, okay? We cannot gloss over that. But he also expressed concern about the ecosystem around battles, not about the battle itself, right? But maybe he sort of did. It was really inconclusive in a lot of ways, and it kind of undoubtedly and undoubtedly gave cover to the victimhood of someone like Drake. So I say this: nobody made Drake do any of this. He made these choices as a grown man with unlimited resources. He provoked, he crossed lines, he brought families in after being warned, he got his ass beat. He sued in the court told him to sit his ass down. The people told him to sit his ass down. No revisionist history changes what people watch with their own eyes in 2024. The bots can run narratives. The PR firm can bury people. The Coles and the Cams and the Gillies, they can coddle. None of it changes the sequence of events on record. Drake is the primary author of where Drake is right now. That's all I gotta say. Till next time, tune into my next episode on Midnight Music and Culture. This is episode 4. I'm your host, Lex Black. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Thank you for taking the time to watch the show. Yes, sir.